being in the middle of class.
Be'ezrat Hashem, Naaseh v'Natzliach. I want to welcome you to another session of our Parashat Shavua class here at Chabad of Aventura, I believe it's called. Tonight's class is a very special one for both married couples or anybody who's single. It's also very eye-opening. It's called the first woman of valor, the first Eshet Chayil in history. We'll get to that in a second. Before we get started, I'd like to dedicate this class to the honor of Jacqueline Bat Alia and Tova Shindel Bat Alta. I also give some honorable mentions. Yitbarach Shemo Shel Kadosh Baruch Hu, Be'ezrat Hashem, that the following class will be to the Ilun Nishmat of David ben Zohara, Yaniv ben Rina, Mishal ben Zohara, Aviv ben Vivi, Esther ben Alia, Avraham Yoshua ben Sultana, Simon ben Alia, Mazal bat Luna, Yitzchak ben Tzviya, Nisim ben Meir, Rachel bat Bela, Yaakov ben Tamar. Also, this should be to Refuah Shelema of Amram ben Zohara, Lavi Rafael ben Olga, Daniel bat Mazal, Yonatan Chaim ben Sigal, Miriam bat Pesi Penina, and also to the Zivug of Inbal bat Jacqueline, Guy ben Dina, Sheina Henshi bat Leah Gittel, Eli ben Shula, Rina bat Amelia, and Yudit bat Sarah Imenu, and Avigail bat Sarah Imenu, and Roni Yuda ben Azu. I have to write that down. Also, that this should be to the general success and of Brecha v'Atzlacha of Abraham ben Daniel, Abraham ben Velot Chaya, Yehuda Lev ben Tova Shindel, and Desiree and Avia. Also, I'd like to give some honorable mentions to tonight's sponsors. We have David, good friends of the class, David and Karen Berman, that are dedicating tonight's class to the Refuah Shelema of Donna Romano, and also should be to the health, wealth, success of David, Karen Berman, and their family. Also to Yudit Ben Shabbat, a good friend of all the classes. Hashem v'ech ota v'sameach ota, her and her family. V'kol nilvim elea. Judah Mendel, the pioneer of this class, also sponsoring for the health and welfare of the Jewish people. Hashem v'ech ota v'sameach ota. And also Abigail Bat Sarah, who is also a good friend of the class, who is sponsoring for the Refuah Shelema of Yoel Halevi Ben Vora. And we also have a new Issachar and Zevulun sponsor. This is going to be for Dov and Pesi Penina. Dov Shmuel and Pesi Penina. Hashem varech otchem. Hashem varech otchem, sameach otchem. They've actually signed up to sponsor this class for the entire year, that they're going to be supporting it and giving it bracha v'atzlacha. Not only they're good friends, I think they're the longest running students over here, maybe 7 or 8 years, but now Baruch Hashem, they're on the side of the given, and they're supporting Torah as well. Hashem v'ech otchem, sameach otchem, for all the people that sponsor, for all the people that show up here on a regular basis. May Hashem fulfill all your heart's desires. Letova, Amen. And may this class also be to the tzlacha of the Jewish people, that we should win the war, that we should have the captives come back, return safely home, and the Be'ezrat Hashem, that we should all do proper teshuvah, and our unity shall continue, and we'll merit to the coming of Mashiach, b'chesed b'rachamim, b'mhera, 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 amen. Amen. This week's parasha is Parashat Chaye Sarah. What's interesting about this parasha is the first 2 lines, the first 2 pesukim. It says, "V'yu Chaye Sarah me'ah shana v'esrim shana v'sheva shanim." Here it gives us her age. She died at 127. Shenei Chaye Sarah, these were the years of Sarah. V'tamot Sarah b'Kiryat Arba hi Hebron beretz Canaan. And Sarah died in an area called Kiryat Arba, which is in the section of Hebron, in the land of Canaan, modern day Israel. Vayavo Avraham lispod leSarah v'livkota. And Avraham came to eulogize Sarah and to cry over her. We'll stop here.
Who died first, Abraham or Sarah?
Sarah. In order to understand what these pesukim are dealing with, you just have to turn 1 page back. Just last week, the Parashat Vayera finished with Akedat Yitzchak. Akedat Yitzchak is the 10th test of Avraham Avinu, where he was tested to take his beloved only child from Sarah and put him on the altar, with him thinking that the purpose was to shecht his only son. And as much as it was going against everything that he thought made sense, such as that the nation of Israel is going to come through the progeny of the child from Sarai Menu, which is only one Yitzchak. And even though that HaKadosh Baruch Hu told him that it's going to come directly from him as a promise, how could it be that Hashem is asking me to kill my only son that the nation of Israel is supposed to come to? He didn't ask any questions. He woke up early in the morning to get the job done. And that's what he did. He put him on the altar. That was Akedat Yitzchak. However, what happened at the altar? Several things. It says that Avraham Avinu nicked the neck of Yitzchak. He literally went for it. And an angel stopped him. And it says that from the fear of him being cut, his soul left his body. By way of Kabbalah, it says that it went up to the heaven and stayed there for 3 years. There's another opinion of the Samech Mem that came to foil the plans of Abraham, foil the plans of Yitzchak, and foil the plans of Sarah, which we're going to go right now. A lot of things happened in that specific moment. One of the things that we want to focus on is what happened to Sarai Menu in the time of Akedat Yitzchak. Me'am Loez brings us 2 separate accounts of what happened, and says, Da'u ki sipur shel ha'akedah hi siba lemota shel Sarai Menu. What killed Sarai Menu is Akedat Yitzchak. Why? Kach haya ma'aseh. He tells us the story. Mishrah Satan shelo yitzliach klal leshadet Avraham v'et Yitzchak, says when the devil himself saw that he can't ward off not Avraham and not Yitzchak from this mission that they're on, of what Hashem commanded them to do, which is the father to tie up the son and offer him, the son to be tied up and be the offering, because every one of them was completely committed to it. Like we saw in the previous parasha. So what did the devil do when he can't overpower or trick or foil the plans of Avraham or Yitzchak? He goes to Sarah. He goes to Sarah in Beersheba, and he comes to her in the form of an older man, riding on a camel. And he tells her, you don't know what happened to your family? Your husband took your dear child Yitzchak, and he built an altar. He tied him up. He tied up his hands. He tied up his legs, and he shechted him. And as much as Yitzchak was yelling and screaming, he had no mercy on him. And when Sarah heard this besorah, she yelled out a bitter scream. She hid her head into a wall from all the sorrow that she had of this scene that he just described to her. And she would go from place to place in the area of Hebron between the mountains. And she would ask people, did you see my son? Did you see my husband? Did you see my son? Did you see my husband? She even sent her workers to go to the yeshiva of Shem and Ever and said, can you go and see, maybe they went over there, maybe they went to the yeshiva of Shem and Ever. And then Sarah herself went to Achiman, Sheshai, V'Talmai. These were the 3 giants that were still alive during the time. And she asked them, can you see very far into the distance? And they told her, yeah. He says, do you see an old man with 3 people? Because who were the 3 people? Yitzchak, Ishmael, and Eliezer. So she said, look, do you see an old man with 3 guys next to him? So they stand up, they look, and they tell her, yes, we see an older man who's tying up a young man. He's holding a knife in his hand. The devil comes back and tells Sarah, והיא בטוחה שיצחק הוא בריא ושלם. So he tells her, don't pay attention to this old man that came to you in the form of a devil. He's lying to you. Yitzhak is alive and well. כששמעה שרה את הדברים האלה, פרחה נשמתה מרוב שמחה. When she heard that her son is still alive, her soul left her out of joy. So there's two accounts of the story. One, because of fear, she died because of the sudden news that her son is being shechted by her own husband. That's the classic storyline for Akedat Yitzchak. And the second one says that she was so happy that her son was still alive that she the parcha nishmata berov simcha, out of happiness.
How old was she when she died?
127. First pasuk in the parasha, it said, "Vayiyu chaye Sarah 100 shana ו20 shana ו7 shanim shene chaye Sarah." She died at 127. If you want some interesting facts, Sarah and Abraham got married. Sarah was 16, Abraham was 25. They had a child when she was 90 and he was 100. Interesting fact, she was also an Ilonit. Ilonit is a type of woman that doesn't even have the body parts of a woman. She has missing parts, so she can't bear children even. And another interesting fact is that the entire time while they were married, they were making different types of children. What kind of children? Spiritual children. Because it would go around, Abraham was the first one to promote monotheism in the world, believing in one God. So he would convert the men, and she would convert. You know, you made him into a person. You made him into a new. They created like spiritual children, but their own child, which was Yitzchak, only came at a later age. Or Daniel brings something very interesting, and we're going to develop the story before we zoom in on Sarah. It says in the pasuk. Remember, we're only learning 2 pasukim today. We learned the first one, which is her age, that she's 127. The second pasuk is that Abraham came to eulogize and cry over Sarah. That's all we're going to learn today. But there's so much there. So Bereshit Rabbah asks a question. Mechan ba? It says that Abraham came. Where did he come from? So it says, we know that the Akedah happened. Akedat Yitzchak was right on top of where Bet HaMikdash is today. Har HaMoriah. And he came directly from there. And what was the whole idea of letting us know that he came from there? Because he says, if there is a child that she gave an education to, that she raised a child who's willing to give up his own life for the sanctification of God's name, this is a woman that is worthy of being exalted, praised. So what is this praising of a woman? So we say that Abraham came to lispod leSarah. He came to eulogize Sarah. Maybe you never knew this before, but we sing his eulogy every Friday night. Every Friday night, the eulogy that Abraham Avinu gave to Sarah, we sing. Because the eulogy that Abraham eulogized Sarah is the text of Eshet Chayil. Eshet Chayil Mi'imtza is the eulogy of Abraham Avinu to Sarah Imenu. He is the one that wrote it. Shlomo Melech later on got it by way of Ruach HaKodesh, but every single word in Eshet Chayil is about the first Eshet Chayil in history. Who is the first Eshet Chayil in history? Sarah Imenu. And why is she in Eshet Chayil? So over here we got the first the first reasoning, because if there's a mom like this, a mom that was okay with her son being sacrificed on the altar for Kiddush Hashem, Abraham says, that's my wife. What an Eshet Chayil I have. Because keep in mind, Avraham Avinu was ready to do what? Shecht his son for Kiddush Hashem. Now he finds out that what his wife is okay with that for Kiddush Hashem. Just as he's impressed with himself, he's impressed with his wife even more so. This is an Ima, an only child, meaning they were completely in sync, spiritually, and the number one thing on their mind was always pleasing HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I'm going to take it to another level. When they said, "Vayavo Avraham lispod l'Sarah v'livkota," we asked, where did he come from? Mehara Moriah. He came from the mountain where Bet HaMikdash is built on. He says, why? Why does the Torah want to let us know that that's exactly where he came from? What's the difference where he came from? Why is the Torah making the point to let us know that he came from that particular place? He says because that's the moment that Abraham understood who his wife is. Sheken Avraham v'Sarah kol echad mehem giryen kimilyon ish. Yes, before this moment, Avraham converted 1 million people to Judaism, and Sarah converted 1 million women into Judaism. However, k'shera Avraham Avinu tamesirut sheyitzchak ba'akedah, when he saw the self-sacrifice that Yitzchak had in the Akedah, because remember, the Midrash tells us that Yitzchak, what did Yitzchak do? He told him, Abba, I'm very strong. Tie up my legs tight and tie up my hands tight, because if I jerk while you're trying to cut me, you might have a shchita psula. Maybe you're gonna ruin the shchita. So tie me good, so I become a olat temimah, that I can become a perfect type of offering. So he saw, wow, look at this kid. Wow, look what he's telling me. Like, you know, the nisayon was for me, Avraham is saying. Hashem told me to do this, but look at my kid, look what he's telling me. He was impressed, but he said, you know what, let me connect the dots. You know how you get an amazing kid? It's an amazing mom. She's the one that raised him to this level. That Yitzchak kibel alav be'ava v'ratzon et ha'gzera le'shachet b'kiddush Hashem. He accepted willingly and would love to be shechted to honor HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Kol ma shadati b'shivcha shel Sarah ad hayom. He says, all these things that I thought so highly of in Sarah up until today is nothing compared to this thing of her child being willing to be tied to the sacrificing on the altar. Shemechamata zachta b'vnai Yitzchak. Yitzchak zacha letzet kach mishlut Sarah. Meaning, it's from his merit, from her merit, that her son came out like this, and Yitzchak came out like this, but the merit of his mother. In other words, Avraham Avinu sees a child who's a tzaddik. You know what he said? Look what I did. Good job. Look at my kid, right? He says, well, he says, no, he did. He says, no, you know why this kid is such a tzaddik? You know why this kid is like right now, like you're so impressed with him? He says it's the mother. Avraham Avinu gave credit to the mother. Yitzchak nishmat imo, because he says, why this is tzidkuto shel Yitzchak? Bo ela b'sara ishto. The only reason why Yitzchak is so righteous is because of Sarah, his wife. Because the soul of his mother is inside of him. Why? Because when those angels came to give the message that she's going to have a child, what does it say? Ka'et chaya u'lesara ben. They said, in 1 year's time, we're going to come back, and Sarah is going to have a son. It doesn't say ul Avraham ben. When the angels came, they didn't say Avraham is going to have a son. They said Sarah is going to have a son. Why? Because he's going to have more of her qualities than his. Ul Sarah ben. Because the neshama of Sarah is going to be passed on. And because she had that neshama, that's why he was able to get to Akedat Yitzchak, and that's why Avraham was so impressed with it, and that's why he said, wow, what a woman just passed away. This is an Eshet Chayil, it's a woman of valor. And he starts the whole Eshet Chayil, which is written, if you ever paid attention to it, according to the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet. Each letter, there's a pasuk. Each letter is a pasuk. Each letter is a pasuk. We're not going to get to all the pasukim today. I hope, Be'ezrat Hashem, Yimitzah Hashem, in the near future, when we do a Shabbat class, one of my plans is also to to go into in depth and study the songs of Shabbat. One of them is Eshet Chayil. Bezrat Hashem that we merit to do that as well. But we are going to get a sampling of it today. Ibrei Noam comes and says something incredible, just straight to the point. It says, in Midrash Tanchuma, it says that it's written in Mishle, Shlomo HaMelech, the smartest man to ever live, writes, Eshet Chayil ateret ba'ala. A woman of valor is the crown of the husband. Meaning when there's a special woman in the house, for the husband, she's like a crown. Eshet Chayil ateret ba'ala. So the Midrash says, you know who this pasuk in Mishle is talking about? You know who Shlomo HaMelech is talking about? Who's ateret ba'ala? Ze Avraham, shaya mekonen al Sarah. It says this pasuk is talking about Avraham. When Avraham went to go and eulogize Sarah, what does it say? Eshet Chayil mimtza. A woman of valor. Who can find a woman of valor? So we see that Avraham Avinu was very impressed with Sarah. The first Eshet Chayil. The template to the ultimate example for a woman is in this week's parasha. The template, the formula, the actual copy-paste that you want to do into your life of how to be an Eshet Chayil, the formula to success as a woman inside the structure of a home is Sarah Imenu. The blueprint. Having said that, there's some things that we know about Sarah Imenu that are basic. Tonight I want to go in depth to reveal some layers and layers of how she was as a wife and as a mother and as a woman, to open up your eyes to almost like have a compass, a moral compass of how to be a woman, how to be a wife, and what a family structure should feel like or be like in a Jewish home. Because if there's a woman of valor, right? And we said, anytime you want to know something, you want to go to the source. You want to, like we said, we want to know about tzchok, about laughter. We went to the first time that it's mentioned in the Torah, when Sarah laughed when she heard about it. We did a class about that last year.
That's Yitzhak.
That's Yitzhak. We said we want to know about the Ishmaelim a couple of classes ago. We went back to see their mother, that she was a liar. From there we saw all the lies and all the things that are connected to that nation. Tonight, we want to see what is the source for a woman of valor. What is the source for an Eshet Chayil? So you go to the beginning, where the Torah mentions it for the first time. That's here. That means that everything that you want to learn about being a successful Jewish woman in a Jewish home is here, embedded in today's lesson, in today's inside look into Sarah Imenu. So let's start with the basic question. What makes a woman of valor? What makes a woman an Eshet Chayil? Because the minute you start revealing to me, what I want to do is I want to copy paste into my own life. If you reveal to me what Sarah is, I'll copy her. I'll emulate her in order so I can be successful in my own home. So, if you want to know, take a look at the first Rashi, Pasuk Aleph, Pasuk on Rashi. It talks about the age. Vayu Chayei Sarah 100 shana ve-20 shana ve-7 shanim shnei Chayei Sarah. Rashi over here reveals to us. Actually, they ask a question. To say 127, you can say 127, 127. But it says it's weird over here. 100 shana, 20 shana, 7 shanim. 100 years, 20 years, and 7 years. Why would it be split up as such? Rashi tells us. Lomar lecha shekol echad v'echad yidrash la'atzmo. He says because each section can be learned separately. Sarah Imenu was bat kuf kebat chaf lachet. When it says v'esra me'a shana, that she's 100 years, meaning he reached the age of 100 years and she was like a 20-year-old to sin. In other words, it's another way of saying sinless. Why? Up until the age of 13, you're not obligated for anything that you do. It's like a child. Everything is like, learning process. From 13 to 20, those 7 years, you are considered, you can be taken to court for things that you do wrong, in a worldly court, here in the world. But in the Shamayim, they don't start judging you till the age of 20. The age of 20 is the first time you get judged in the Shamayim. So, when it says over here that she's bat kuf ke bat chaf lachet, she's 100-year-old, but like a 20-year-old to a sinner. Meaning, what? 20-year-olds have what? How many sins does a 20-year-old have? 0. Why? Because they don't get judged in the Shamayim until they're 20. So that's what she was. She got all the way old, and she was sinless.
Men and women?
Yes. Ma bat chaf lo chata, just like a 20-year-old is like without sin. She'ena bat onshin, af bat kuf belo chet. Similarly. Now, what does it say? Ve'esrim shana. What does it say? 20. It says ubat kaf ki bat sheva layofi, and she was a 20-year-old, but like a 7-year-old in beauty. What does that mean? What does it mean that it was like a 7-year-old like beauty? So, just like a 20-year-old, like a 7-year-old beauty, like when you see a kid 7, how would they look? Like they're gorgeous, right? Their skin is perfect, their hair is beautiful, their eyes are like filled with life. That's what she looked like as a 20-year-old. So what is the pasuk is trying to tell us about Sarah? She was like a 100-year-old, it was like a 20-year-old who was sinless. And she was like a 20-year-old that's like a 7-year-old for her beauty. And then it wraps up everything and says, Shekulan shavin letova. In other words, all her years, in short, let me summarize, all the years of Sarai Imenu were good. So this is what they teach in schools, right? You go to elementary school, everybody knows this Rashi by heart. Let's dig a little bit deeper and get a deeper understanding of what's going on over here. Lekach Tov brings a nice chidush over here. It says that in the Gemara, Sarah is called Iska. That's another her name that she has, Iska. Iska zo Sarah. Velama nikra shema Iska. Why is her name Iska? Shesachta beruach hakodesh. She was like swimming in ruach hakodesh, meaning she had heavenly powers. She was able to have ruach hakodesh. Another meaning that she's holy, right? Another meaning, another reason why she's called Iska. Shakot sochim b'yofeh. Everybody was amazed by her beauty. Okay, make up your mind. She's Iska because she's holy, or she's Iska because she's beautiful? Because it's two different things. One thing's physical, one thing is spiritual. So what is it? Continues to say Masechet Megillah on the 14th page on the first side. He says that Iska, you telling me two things that are completely the opposite. One is holy, one is physical. It says they actually go in hand. Why? Even though that Sarah was one of the 4 most beautiful women in the world, as so far to say in Bereshit, in Baba Batra, in Bereshit Rabbah, it says, Hakol bifnei Sarah kekof bifnei Adam. He says, when you put anybody next to Sarah, it would look like a monkey next to a human being. That's how beautiful she was. Nobody could compare to her beauty. ושהיו כל צריכים ותמאים מופיעה, אבל היא ברוב ענוותנותה לא עשה זרה שום רושם. Even though that she was one of the 4 most beautiful people to ever live on planet Earth. And everybody looked like a monkey next to her. She never paid attention to it. She never made a big deal of her physical features. Her entire existence was just about מחשבות רוחניים בעניינים גבוהים ונשגבים, נתרומם ותעתה במעלה זה כששחתה ברוח הקודש. All she cared about is just becoming more spiritual, holier. She would always think about God and how to serve Hashem. ועד כדי כך שגם אברהם היה תפל לישראל בנביאות. She got on such a higher level of holiness that she was on a higher level of holiness from Avraham Avinu. She was higher than Avraham. She was in she had levels of prophecy of Ruach HaKodesh higher than Avraham Avinu.
If I may ask, how come in the prayer in the Amidah it says Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzhak, Elohei Yaakov, and we don't mention Sarah?
We don't mention any of them. We don't mention any of the women.
But if she was holier than he, she should have been mentioned.
Absolutely. In about 30 minutes, I have a very good answer for you.
Okay.
And she would answer by itself.
No, I do. I have an answer for you, but I don't want to skip all the way there. I want to build it up to it.
Okay.
So Sarai Imenu was beautiful. Sarai Imenu was spiritual. Sarai Imenu was not materialistic. She wasn't focused on worldly things. She was focused on ruchaniyut, about God. She was a spiritual individual. Another side, which is very interesting, when they said that she was 100 like 20 and 20 like 7, what's the correlation? They're giving me a 20-year-old, that's a young woman, and then they're giving me like a 100-year-old, that's an old woman. Well, what's the connection? And then they're giving me a 7-year-old, and then they're giving me a 20-year-old. What's the connection? It's like these 3 different age groups, but some way, somehow they're connected. Over here, they give an unbelievable explanation. It says, the reason why they said, Kulam Shavim Letova, that when she was younger and when she was older, they were all the same. What do you mean they were all the same? A 7-year-old, when she was 7 years old, she was the same. When she was a 20-year-old, she was the same. When she was 100 years old or 127 years old, Kulam Shavim Letova, she was always the same. דהיינו, כשהייתה בת 7 ובת 20, היה בה מידת זקנים בדעה נכונה ושלמה להשכיב להיטב כבת 100. He says, when she was 7 years old or 20 years old, her wisdom was like somebody who was 100. Or somebody like 120, meaning she wasn't lightheaded. She had a good head on her shoulders. Even when she was 7, even when she was 20, she had the mind like a skena, like an older woman. And when she was older, כשהייתה בת 100, הייתה זריזה וקלה לעשות מעשים טובים לקבוע חסד בכל עמוד כמו בת 7 וכמו בת 20. It says, and when she was older, when she was 100 years old, she had the energy of a 20-year-old or a 7-year-old to run and do mitzvot and do acts of kindness. Meaning what? The things that are usually the Achilles heel for the generations, right? The younger people don't have wisdom, right? The older people don't have energy or zeal to move. She had kulam shavim. She had the wisdom when she was younger and older, and she had the zeal of a young person even when she got older. And as a matter of fact, this is even hinted to in the Gemara, Baba Kama, on the 96th page on the second side, says, when they were alive, there was a coin. When Abraham and Sarah were alive, there was a coin. Matbea shel Avraham Avinu, they used to have a special coin. Zaken v'skena mitzad echad, bachur betula b'tzad sheni. On one side of the coin would be an old man and an old woman, and on the flip side of the coin, it would have a young man and a young woman. And what does this signify? Shaya la'am dad skenim, gam biyotam bachur betula. That they had the wisdom of the old even when they were younger. Right? As a matter of fact, that's when it says, Ela bakar ratz Avraham. Avraham was, how old was he when he got the news that he's going to have a child? 99. And what did he do? Ratz bakar. Who runs at 99? He had the zeal and he had the fervor of a young person. And also Sarah, when he tells her, Mahari, shalosh se'im lushi. What's Mahari? Be quick. Can a 90-year-old be quick? Can an 89-year-old one be quick? She's super slow. No. She had the qualities of a young woman at her old age, and when she was younger, she had the wisdom of an old woman, even when she was younger.
Superwoman.
Eshet Chayil, we're learning what's an Eshet Chayil. Little Milta de B'dichuta, you know, there's a famous saying that youth is wasted on the young. Do you ever hear that? I tell that to my son sometimes. It's a famous saying. Some say it was George Orwell that said it, but the person that really says George Bernard Shaw. I don't know if you know who he is, but you do? Okay. So he says that youth is wasted on the young. Do you ever see the young kids? They're always lazy. They always want to sleep. They always want to do nothing. Right? Right? But they have all the power, they have all the energy, and don't want to do nothing. Youth is wasted on the young. Because when you get older, what do? You look at the young kids doing nothing. Like, if I had your power, if I had your... Right? That's what it is. We see that Abraham and Sarah didn't have that problem. They had the wisdom when they were younger, and they had the power when they were older. How beautiful is that? Another thing about Shavin Latova, that all her years were equal in quality. Yes, Shavin Latova. It says, all her life, Kulan Shavin Latova, her entire life was always good. Meaning always, all the years were good. Latova. Let's stop right here. Who says that Sarai Imenu had a good life? Who says that Sarai Imenu had a good life? Let me refresh your memory of the type of life that Sarai Imenu had. Because don't forget, Abraham had 10 tests, right? Who was right there with him? His wife, right? So let me remind you. היו בחייה צרות רבות. She has a lot of hard times in her life. Don't forget, her husband Abraham was thrown into the Kivshan Ha'esh, the furnace in Ur Kasdim. He says Abraham and Sarah lived through a famine. They had to go down to Egypt. She was kidnapped by Paro, and then she was kidnapped by Avimelech. She was also a barren till the age of 90. And after she got, not only that, before she had a child, she had to take her own maidservant Shifra to come into her house, and they had to deal with the whole story of Ishmael. So what type of Kulan Shavin Latova? What kind of she had 127 amazing years? I don't see it. She had a very, very rough life. However, when it says Kulan Shavin Latova, the Shnei Chaye Sarah, the life of Sarah, all the years were good. How can you tell me, after you told me all these calamities, all these hardships, all her life was good? This is a testament to who Sarah Imenu is. Shivcha shel Sarah Imenu, how praiseworthy is the matriarch Sarah. Shegam kasher savlat tzarot kashot umerubot, even though she went through all these hardships, hitzdiki aleh et hadin lelo tuna. She never complained. Because she always says, if there's some sort of a hardship that I'm going through, it's because of one of my sins. I sinned. That's why I have problems. And if there was any sort of success, she said, I must have done something good. V'kibla hakol be'ava. She never complained. All the hardships that she went through, she accepted with love. Gam ba'yimim hatovim ve'gam ba'yimim hakashim. On the easy days, on the hard days, she accepted all for the best. V'natna toda v'hodaya leborei olam. She always said, she was always grateful and thankful to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, no matter what she was going through. Who is Sarai Imenu? Sarai Imenu is living Emunah life. You know what's Emunah life? That's all good all the time. Whatever Hashem has for me, it's the best thing for me. I'm fighting with my husband. I'm happy with my husband. I'm not happy with my husband. Times are tough. We have money. We don't have money. There's money in our belly. There's food in our belly. There's no food in our belly. Welcome. I was hoping you'd come. Kol hakavod, my good friend. Bruchim habayim. So what do we have over here? Kibla hakol be'ahava. That she accepted everything out of love. We're starting to get layers and layers of Sarai Imenu as an Eshet Chayil. Later on, we'll tie it up in a bow. I'm keeping notes. Don't worry. At the end, I'll tell you everything that we're learning. Okay, so you don't forget. But you can see that no matter what the hardships were, she understood. If I'm going through something bad, it's because I sinned, and this is some sort of a punishment or a payback or a cleanup process. And if I'm experiencing something good, Hashem loves me, it's all good. But she knew it was all good all the time. Hashem doesn't make mistakes. Hashem is not punishing anybody above and beyond what they need to do as far as a cleanup process. Even Sarai Menu. As a matter of fact, if you remember what we say last week, why did Sarai Menu bring Hagar in order to bring Ishmael? She said, because if up to 90 years old, up to 89 years old, I didn't have a child, for sure it's a sin. So what I'll do, maybe I have to create a merit, I have to create a suit. I'll put myself in a situation where I bring a tzara into my own home. I'll bring my maidservant to have a child, just so Abraham Avinu can have a child. Here, Hashem. Maybe this will free up whatever sin I did. Look at the mindset of Sarah. It was a tzaddiket. Again, she didn't care about her beauty. She didn't care about her, about all the things that she was doing. She understood. She understood even after 90 years of converting people that Hashem is always right all the time. V'hakol letova. Yes.
So my question is, if Sarah was such a high-level prophetess, how come she didn't know that Hagar, who the nation of Ishmael was going to come from a Hagar, and how come she didn't know that she was going to bear a child at the age of 90?
So last week we answered that question, that she did know that by Ruach HaKodesh, that even though that Ishmael comes from the lineage of Ham, which is, he comes from Canaan, which is the son of Ham, which is a cursed nation, and Abraham is blessed, she said by way of Ruach HaKodesh, she saw that he should do it anyways. And as far as to what happened with the child and everything they had, we spoke about what the Gemara said, and we spoke about what the Malachim said, and we came back to the full answer that Hashem gave everybody, which is Ba'asher Hu Sham. Ishmael at that moment was a tzaddik, and Hashem didn't pay attention to who he was at that moment before trying to kill Yitzchak because he's a teshuvah, and he didn't pay attention to who he's going to be in the future. All his terrorist children that are terrorizing the world right now. He says right now he's a tzaddik, Ba'asher Hu Sham. Because he's a tzaddik now, then I deal with him on who he is right now. Now, we go back to, like we said, we're only going to learn 2 pesukim today. I want to go to the second pasuk, where it says, that Abraham came to eulogize and to cry. If you look in the Chumash, or if you go to the Torah, when you see the word lifkota, that he came to cry, in the Torah there's a chaf zaira, right? So what's a chaf zaira? It's a very small chaf. In the Torah, there are some letters that are enlarged, some letters that are regular size, and then some letters that are tiny. Each one, there's a reason why they're bigger or smaller or the same size. Happens to be that in this word, lifkota, there's a small chaf. So we want to understand, why is there a small chaf in lifkota? I'll give you some of the famous explanations that the commentary give. One, lifkota, if you take that small chaf away from velifkota, it says velebita, which means what? That she used to have a daughter named Bakol, and she died at the same day that her mother died. So when lifkota, velebita, if you take the chaf away, they made it small, he cried. He went to cry for Sarah and her daughter Bakol. Lifkota, the small chaf, he cried a little bit. He didn't cry a lot. The small chaf, let us know they cried a little, not a lot. That's the famous ones. You read the Rashi, it's going to tell you that. But here we're going to learn one level up, a little bit of a higher understanding. Also, why did he cry a little? Because Abraham Avinu, he said, just came back from Akedat Yitzchak. What was his realization over there? My wife is a tzaddiket. Why? She raised a tzaddik. If there is a Yitzchak in this world that's willing to get tied up because his father told him, because Hashem wants to, and his mother is the one that raised him in such a way, she's a tzaddiket and she has a son of a tzaddik. You know what? She's good in the afterlife. I don't have to cry for her. I'll cry very little just to... but in reality, she's good. You don't cry for those things. She's in a good place. Meaning wherever she's going from this point on, she's in a very, very good place. There's no need to cry. Furthermore, she'll be fine in the afterlife. Furthermore, there's another beautiful explanation. There's a concept that the devil tests you twice on everything. He tests you before and after. Meaning, before you do something, he's going to try to stop you from doing something. And then after you do it, he's going to make you regret it. For example, it happens a lot of people with tzedakah. What happens? Sometimes they go to a shul, they get all excited. You know, the environment is like 180, 260, 350. The guy thinks he's playing poker. 550. I'm all in. All of a sudden, like, they go all excited. He comes, he moves the curtain. He goes back to his seat. He's like, wow, that was a short ride. 550 just to move a velvet curtain. So what happens? In the beginning, he's like, should I spend that money? Not spend that money. The Yetzer is right. He goes, he spends it. After he spends it, the Yetzer makes it, you see? You should feel bad about that mitzvah. Right? Instead of feeling good about the mitzvah, it makes him feel bad. So what is it? He always tries to get you either before or after. In the beginning, he tries to talk to you into your head, don't spend, 550, you know what you can get. What are you doing? And after you spend, it's like, you see, now you lost money. What was it? What do you think that's going to do something for you? It gets in a person's head. So he's always there before and after a mitzvah. This is also what happened with Avraham Avinu. Look what he says. In Akedat Yitzchak, on the way to the Akedah, the devil comes to Avraham and he tries to delay him. And he tries to delay him from Avraham to pass this nisayon. And he does the whole thing where he created a river so he wouldn't cross. He tried to damage the knife. He moved a tree. He did a bunch of things just to make sure that Avraham doesn't go through it. Avraham passed. However, after he did Akedat Yitzchak, Avraham Avinu was so happy. Look, I passed my final test with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I have a son that's a tzaddik. But what's the problem here? His wife died. So the Samech man comes into his head. You see, it's not worth it. This whole Akedah wasn't worth it. You lost a wife, right? So what will happen? Avraham Avinu will regret Akedat Yitzchak. What happens if you regret Akedat Yitzchak? That's it. The whole mitzvah goes and loses all its intensity. So he says, "Batuach haya yetzer shem yamit et Sarah." This was the master plan of the devil. He said, if I'm going to make Sarah die, itcharet Avraham hashamad ben Sarah Akedah. He's going to regret doing Akedat Yitzchak. So that's why he says, "Velema'et babechi." He says that's why when he came v'sav lifkota, Avraham Avinu didn't want to cry too much. Why? Because if he's going to cry too much, people are going to say what? He regretted the Akedah. Because why? Look how sorry he is that he lost Sarah. So what do you cry? A little bit. So what do we say? He did it because Sarah is a tzaddiket with a son that's a tzaddik. She's fine. There's no need to cry. Her afterlife is perfect. Second reason is that he doesn't want to cry too much, so people don't think that he regretted the mitzvah that he did of Akedat Yitzchak. It's good to know that the Samech Menam tests you before mitzvah and after mitzvah. It's a very good life lesson. Very, very good to know that. Because when you're getting tested, you can just say, I see you. I know. Sharone told me. I already know you're coming for me before the mitzvah, and I already know you're going to try to. That's why in Amidah, you know what? Let's give it another layer. What do we say in Arvit? What do we say in Arvit? There's always beautiful when you can you tie tefillah to Torah learning. What does it say? Shevor v'aser hasatan milefanenu machorenu. In Arvit, we say it every day. Break and remove the devil that's in front of us and after us. What's the samech mem that's melefanenu v'machorenu? Melefanenu Before we do the mitzvah, he's always trying to make us stop from doing mitzvah. Ma'achorenu, that makes us regret that we did it. It's not tefillah. Another beautiful layer to this. Why did Avraham Avinu cry? Just a little bit. This one you never heard. For sure. Midrash Tanchuma says that you know when Sarah Imenu died? The same day of Akedat Yitzchak. When did Akedat Yitzchak happen? You know this.
Friday.
I'll give you a hint. Which holiday we say, Oked v'hanekad v'hamizbeach? Kippur. So that's when she died. She died on Kippur. Midrash Tanchuma says, Ma'ita ita Akedah? B'yom HaKippurim. That's why we sing that song on that day. Lefi השתתה מובאת בריקנטי. Now, כמה ימים עברו מהעקדה עד שאברהם הגיע לחברון מצא שרה אימנו מתה? So, if he left his house and he walked 3 days until he reached Har Moriah, right? What 1 day? 3 days.
No, he went with 3 days, but he came back in 1 day.
No.
No?
No. Let's do it again. Let's go to the tefillah. What do we say every single day in the tefillah? He says, ויקח את שני רבתו ואת יצחק בנו, ויבקע צאולה, ויקום וילך אל המקום אשר אמר לו אלוהים, and then what does it say? ביום השלישי, וישא אברהם את עיניו והיה את המקום מרחוק. It took him 3 days to get to that spot. So because it took him 3 days to get to that spot, how many days is it going to take him to come back? 3 days. Common sense, right? So what's 3 days after Yom Kippur? Sukkot. You're doing good. So it says, הלך 3 ימים להר המוריה. החזרה הייתה 3 ימים. So he walked 3 days and he came back 3 days. So that's the Yudalat Tishrei. Yudalat Tishrei is Erev Chag Sukkot. And before he could bury his wife Sarah, we have the whole story of this week's parasha, that he went to Bnei Chet and spoke to Ephron and he did the Masa Matan, the purchasing of Marat HaMachpelah. That took some time, right? ולא נותרו לו עד הערב אלא שעה או שעתיים. So this whole like wheel and deal of trying to get to the Marat HaMachpelah from Ephron took some time. So by the time between now and Sukkot starting, he had like 1 hour or 2 hours. So how much time do you have for Shiva? Practically nothing. Yifkota. You cried very little.
I thought that Sukkot is 5 days after Yom Kippur.
It's 4.
Well, 4 years.
It's Yudalet. I'm sorry. It's Yudalet. So it's like this. Yud Betishrei is the whole day of Yom Kippur. You come out of it. 3 days after is the walk. Yudalet at night, right? Yudalet at night. That means on the 3rd day in the nighttime, because we start our days in the night. So that's how this all worked out. Furthermore, it says Lifkota. Why is the letter small? Lama iktana? Ki lo iskot lifkot harbe miprat kedushat hachag. Furthermore, it says something unbelievable about Lifkota.
Translation, please.
He says why is the letter Chaf small in the word Lifkota? There's a remez, there's a hint that the Bechi was small, that he cried just a little bit. He says, but there's another reason for it. We said that the reason why he cried a little bit is because of Sukkot. He says that's hinted in the Chaf. Why? A Sukkah, a kosher Sukkah is what? Shalosh dafnot. The Chaf. So he says, Shalosh dafnot Sukkah, וכניסת חג הסוכות היא הסיבה שבגלל שהבכי היה קצר. He says only because of Sukkot is the reason why the Bechi for Sarah was so short. Also, what is the message of Sukkot? What's the whole thing that we do in Sukkot? We say we leave our permanent dwelling and go into a temporary dwelling, right? We go into Dirat Keva and to Dirat Arai. What Sarai Meno happened? She left from Dirat Arai to Dirat Keva, right? What happened? She left this world, which is temporary, and she went into the permanent world. Also very nice.
A little small ladder, huh?
From the yes.
I thought you said levita, if you take the half. It's not levita.
Livkota. Now, remember that Avraham Avinu now came to Livkota. We said he cried a little, but he also came Lispod. What's Lispod? He came to eulogize. What was the eulogy? Eshet Chayil. Eshet Chayil is very cryptic. You think you know what you're saying. But if you look closely into it, Be'ezrat Hashem will look one day and learn it in depth, line by line, stories behind it. But just for right now, I'll just give you a couple of things, because again, we're trying to learn the character of Sarat Imenu. We're looking at the character of the first Eshet Chayil. Show me who she is as a woman, so I, as a woman, can also be like her. Or also, show me what a good wife is like. So what? Inside a family structure of a husband and wife, we know how to interact. We learn from Avraham and Sarah. So we said, Eshet Chayil mi'imtza. That's what Avraham said. He says, Eshet Chayil, this woman of Val, mi'imtza. It's so difficult to find such a woman. If you go to letter Dalet, it says over there, Darshat Seber Ufishtim, Vatas Bechefetz Kapea. She asked for wool and flax, and she did what and she started to work with her handiwork. Meaning, she wanted to toil. She wanted to do work. What does it mean? So I'll give you a few meanings about it just before we get to the real one. What I really wanted to say here. Back in the days, women didn't work. Women took care of the home, which is, Baruch Hashem, a big job in itself. Just this week, Rabbi Salah just said something that really just changed my mind about women and, like a homemaker. Nowadays, we live in a world that women are like this whole feminism, and they want equal rights, and a woman's like a man, man's like a woman. It's not a Jewish way, anyways. That's number one. Number two, he says, what do you think, like, because the wife makes a load of laundry, it's like, and you finish a Gemara, a Masechet in Kolel, you think she's any less? He says, every time that she finishes a load of laundry, it's like she finishes a Masechet. Nothing less. There's nothing less. He says, there's a woman, what she doesn't work is just like you going to the Kolel and learning a Masechet all day long, and you're doing your whole spiritual work. That's her avodah. Every time she makes a meal, it's like she finished Parashat Shavua. She did her work also. It's on the highest level considered in the Shammai. Because we try to make it like cleaning or cooking or whatever it is. It's like menial. He put it up there just like the thing that we regard as the highest. I thought it was very interesting. But before we get into that whole thing, let's do Kufsa. Okay. A woman used to not work. However, sometimes there's financial struggles. So the woman would like to help the husband to work, to bring in money to the house. So back in the days, what the husband would do is he would bring either flax or wool, and the woman would twine. They would turn it into like a ball of yarn. That would be that. What was it? No, I heard things. What? Okay. It would turn into yarn, right? And she was able to earn a little bit more. So sometimes the husband would come and tell her, "Here, listen, well, we're behind on the rent. Here's the ball of yarn. I'm sorry. Here's the wool. Here's the flax. Start making threads, right? We need help." But she says, but over here says no. Darshat Seber Ufishtim. She asked for it. She says, "I want to do it. Bring home wool. Bring home flax. I want to make thread." Vatas bechefetz kapea. She wanted to do it. Meaning this is a charutza. What's charutza? She's not lazy. She's like, no, bring work. I can do it. I can make it, right?
She's also fast.
She was fast. There's a lot to say over here. Darshat Seber Ufishtim. However, this is a beautiful lesson right now. Buckle up. It says in the Midrash, what does it mean, Darshat Seber Ufishtim? It says that Sarai Menu wanted to separate between Yitzhak and Ishmael. Why? Yitzhak was the tzemer, Yitzhak was the wool, and Ishmael was the fishtim, the flax. Yitzhak was the tzaddik, and Ishmael was the rasha. Where do we get this from? Cain and Hevel. When Cain and Hevel brought their korban, Hevel's korban was accepted, like tzemer, and Cain's was rejected because it was pishtim. By the way, that's how we learned that you can't have wool and linen together because of shatnez. So we see that Yitzhak Avinu went in the way of Hevel, which is tzemer, Lavan, Naki, Kadosh, and Ishmael went in the ways of Cain, that was the murderer of his brother, just like Ishmael wanted to kill his own brother Yitzhak. Ishmael copied the ways of Cain. That's why he's like the Pishtim, just like Cain. So when Sarah saw Ishmael, the son of Hagar HaMitzrit, Metzachek, like we learned last week, that he tried to kill him, and Chazal told us also, not only that he tried to kill him, but he was also in the 3 cardinal sins, Gilui Arayot, that he used to do. Well, let's go deeper into it. What did Ishmael do that Sarai Menu says, this guy can't be next to my son. Get him away from my child. I want him away. I want to separate him from Yitzchak. What did he do? You know what he used to do? I said I'm not going to do about the war, but I have to say it here. I didn't want to do another class about the war, but look what it says. How did he have illicit relationships? He would hunt women that belonged to other men, and he would torture them. Isn't that what happened right now?
Unbelievable.
Tzad Nashim, women that belong to other men, and they torture him. Whatever. It's not the way we did a lot of examples in the previous classes, but amazing. He used to be an idol worshipper. He used to do some sort of idol worship. He used to be a murderer, that he would take the bow and arrow and shoot it over Yitzhak. That's why she said, instead of chinuch, I'm educating my child to be tahor, kadosh. We said that her mind was always Hashem, her mind was always kedusha. What? That my child yilmad Yitzhak ma'asav hara'im shel Ishmael? That I should have my child exposed to this bad culture of Ishmael? Gilu arayot, shafech damim, avodah zarah? No way. What did she immediately tell Abraham? Garesh ha'ma'azot ve'et benah. Get this servant and her son out of the house. He's not going to inherit. He's not going to inherit the share of my son Yitzchak. What do we see from this whole interaction? Darshat tzemer ufishtim. Now what she says, I want to separate between the wool and the flax. Chinuch. I want to separate my children from the good and the bad. Yes.
What? It's a kind of a question, but whatever. When Sarah told Hagar to go and have a child with Abraham, her intention was to raise that child as her own, right? Like,
yes.
Sarah would be like the one in charge of educating Ishmael. So for 30 years, he was like morally correct, or he was not. Like,
it says Vayigdal. What's Vayigdal? Eventually, at one point, he turned bad.
okay.
It says that he went to Tarbut Ra'ah. He went and started to become bad. So at one point, he was a good kid, right? It says that Ishmael did come back and do teshuvah later on in his later years. But he went off the derech. He went and he drew from his Egyptian roots, from his roots of Ham. So yes, he was good at one point, and that's why Abraham loved it. And Sarah also at one point, I didn't see anywhere it says that she loved Ishmael, but yes, he was raised in the house of Abraham and Sarah. But what happened is that why did Abraham also eventually agree to kick out his own son from the house? Because when he saw all these things that he was doing, he couldn't stand his own son. It says, "Vayisna Avraham et Ishmael ki yatsa letarbut ra'ah." He went to a bad culture. He went to like the bad neighboring cultures, and you see what he did. He started to kidnap women. He started to do avodah zarah, and he even tried to kill his own brother. So because of that, he had to go. So we learn that the ikar and the shivcha v'ma'alata shel ha'isha, that we see the most beautiful things and the ones that we can praise to the highest level of any woman is you measure the way she has the self-sacrifice on chinuch yeladea, how she applies herself to the education of her children, that they should go in the way of the Torah Kedusha, and also that chas v'shalom they go to foreign fields, foreign people, foreign ideologies, foreign nations, v'lilmod ma'aseim hara'im. So what do we learn about Sarah Imenu over here? Chinuch Yeladim was number one for her. The minute she saw it was a bad friend, the minute she saw it was the wrong ideology, the minute that she saw that something that doesn't match Torah, mitzvot, maasim tovim, the way of Hashem, the way of Avraham Avinu, the way of Avinu Shebashamayim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, no longer here. Not only, tell your son to behave, not tell your son to come around only once a month, and leave. Completely extracted the problem out, no more. And we learn from here, that's the chinuch. You take the problem out from the root. You don't let it linger around. Why? Because they're crafty. They're going to shoot arrows and say, oh, I'm just joking. And all day long they're going to shoot arrows. How are they going to shoot arrows? They're going to go like this. They're going to, tell you, oh, this is educational programming. Before you know it, LGBTQ is showing up on 1+1. How did I get in there? Oh, they're shooting arrows. Bad culture. You see them also, sometimes you send kids to play. They're playing. All of a sudden they're doing like a dance that they learned from a video game. And all of a sudden like all these obscene moves and all these things that are like not kosher. Oh, what happened? Oh, I was playing a video game. But how did that get into it? Oh, they shoot arrows. They're constantly shooting arrows. I told you guys about my daughter that I got her the netbook. I got her a netbook with the parental lock and all these things, this and that. One day I wake up, I see two girls holding hand on a screensaver. What's going on over here? I was like, no, I go back and you see that Google has a different screensaver every single day. And it was their month, the month of Galva, the Pride month, and you can't take it off, you can't erase, you can't delete it, you can't do nothing. I had to take a picture of myself on the webcam and said, Abba's your screensaver now. What are you going to do? It's like you can't even get rid of it. Look at me all the time. What are you going to do? Okay, let's continue. There's another interesting point that's worth mentioning. It says in Parashat Vayera, last week's parasha, in Perek Chaf Aleph, Pasuk Tet to Yud Gimel. I want to read it to you. It's always good to learn from the inside. It says, we were just talking about it. Vateres Sarah et ben Hagar mitzrit asher ada lava mitzachek. Sarah saw the son of Hagar, the Egyptian woman, that gave birth to this Ishmael mitzachek. And we said mitzachek, either the three things, the three cardinal sins, and he was trying to kill him. Vatomer l'Avram garesh ha'ama hazot ve'et bena. Get rid of this Amma and her son. Ki lo yirash ben ha'ama hazot im beni im Yitzchak. He's not going to inherit the double portion that he wants to do, because we know the firstborn gets a double portion, right? So he wanted to inherit the double portion. Vayera hadavar me'od be'enei Avraham al dot beno. It was very bad in the eyes of Avraham about getting rid of Ishmael. Vayomer Elohim el Avraham. Hashem speaks to Avraham directly. He tells him, Al yireh be'enecha al anar v'al amatecha. Says, don't let it be like something negative or wrong in your eyes, what's happening right now to Ishmael and to Hagar. Kol asher tomar elecha Sarah, shma bekola. Whatever Sarah is telling you, listen to her voice. Ki bi Yitzchak yikare lecha zara. Because through Yitzchak is where you're going to get your progeny, where you're going to get your people, the Am Yisrael. Rashi says something incredible over here. Shma bekola, listen to the voice of Sarah Imenu. Why should Avraham listen to Sarah? Why should the husband listen to the wife? Shaya Avraham tafel Sarah benviut. That Avraham was on a lower level of Sarah when it came to prophecy. I'm going to answer your question now. So over here, we're going to take a little bit of a detour. It's a long detour, but it's to make this point. what just happened over here, what Rashi just revealed to us, that Sarah was on a higher level spiritually than Avraham Avinu, shows us that she knew her role in the house. She stayed in her lane. She knew exactly what's her purpose, what's appropriate and what's not appropriate, what she can do, what she can't do. Put that on the shelf to be continued. Take a look at this. Let's start with the introduction to understand this point. What is the role of a husband and what is the role of a wife? The Baal is a mashpia. What's a mashpia? He's the influencer. He's the giver. What's the role of the woman? She's mekabelet. She's the receptacle. She's the vessel. She receives. To understand this concept, we need to go to the first husband and wife. Again, when we go to the first, we always see everything on the first. So who's the first husband and wife? Adam and Chava. This one is not buckle up. This is if you go on the roller coaster, you know when they bring down the thing? That's this one right now. I'm letting you know. I'm letting you know. Okay. The Chida reveals to us there were two Eves. Two Chava. Not only a good lesson, the video feed stopped working. Okay. In Bereshit it says, Vayomer ha'adam zot ha'pa'am עצם העצמי ובשר מבשרי לזאת תיקרא אישה כי מאיש לוקחה זאת. There's a pasuk in Bereshit that says that the Adam says zot ha'pa'am, this one, this time, meaning what? There was a different one last time? What do you mean zot ha'pa'am? Zot, this one, ha'pa'am, this time, she's different. עצם העצמי, she's from my bones. ובשר מבשרי, she's from my flesh. לזאת תקרא אישה. This one, her name is going to be אישה. כי מאיש לוקחה זאת, because she was taken from me, from Adam. The Chida is going to unpack this in a way that is unbelievable, because there's something very, 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 very important to learn over here in a role of a man and a woman in a marriage. It says when Adam Harishon was created, Chava was created with him as well. However, Adam and Chava were complete equals. Same height, same weight, same size. And because they were completely the same in appearance, לא קיבלה חווה ראשונה את מרותו של אדם הראשון. She didn't accept him as her master, or as a superior, or as her husband, or as her mashpia. והלכה ממנו, she left him. She says, no. Why should you be on top of me? Why should you be? Now you keep in mind, when I say on top, it's not like somebody who rules over her. Just as a hierarchy, right? Just like like in there's a president, there's a vice president, everybody has like important roles, right? Huh? Sharing you all have the same goal, but each one has a different role, right? But there has to be someone on top. There has to be a main person on top. The way that Hashem created is the man is the main of creation, and Chava is Ezer Kenegdo, his assistant, his helper, his partner, whatever you want to call it. It's not a negative thing. In a Jewish home, it's not a negative thing. If you ever go to a Jewish home, a religious home, the woman is the queen, and the only reason why she's a queen is because her husband is a king. And if they don't have that relationship, the house is in pieces. So, like, who doesn't want to be a queen? Who doesn't want to be a king, right? So let me ask you a question. Does the queen not live in the same castle? Is the queen not eating the same food as the king? Is the queen not benefiting from the same thing as the king? It's identical. They're just a small difference, like a small little hierarchy difference the way Hashem created it. This is going to reveal to us. The first Chava said, no. No hierarchy. We're the same. We're not the same. I'm out. She left. Okay. In the Zohar it brings, when the first Chava left, HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, Lo tov hiyot ha'adam levado. When it says over there, it's not good for the man to be on his own. What do you mean? What do you mean on his own? Wasn't he? Didn't he have Adam? Wasn't there Adam and Chava when they were together? Yes. The first Chava left him, and that's what the pasuk says. Lo tov liot Adam levado. It's not good to be alone. He was left alone. She ran away from him, and that's why it says, let me create for him an assistant, somebody who's going to be his partner. Ezra kenegdo. Vayikach echad mitzalotav. He took one of his ribs, and he bara lo Chava shniya, and he created the second Chava from that rib. By the way, what happened to that first Chava? She went and she became the wife of the devil. And her name is the Lamed Yud and the Lamed Yud and Taf. That's where the first Chava went to. Okay? Now, and by the way, now, take a look at this. What would be the devil's wife? Well, let's take a look at her. Look who she is. She's bitter. She doesn't like. She's jealous of the second Chava. When she saw that Hashem created a second Chava for Adam Arishon, Yalela al mar gorala shenishara levada galmuda. She yelled the bitter scream that she's now all on her own. That's why her essence is that she's bitter and she has negative thoughts. That's why I notice anybody that has that's depressed or has negative thoughts, she's in control of that. And 2 weeks from now, we're going to learn in the Shmonaisre, the Tefillah class, on Yagon ve'anacha, and we're going to learn about Yagon and Anacha. From the Pesukim you see, it's Samech Mem and his wife. Unbelievable lesson. I'm giving you a preview for 2 weeks from now, but it has to be now. Anytime you feel bitter, anytime you feel depressed, anytime you feel that you have some sort of you have no energy for life, anytime that you feel deflated, know that either the Yetzer Hara or his wife got you in their grips. You know when they don't have you in their grips? When you're happy. When you vibrate on the frequency of joy and happiness, they can't touch you.
They cannot touch you.
But when you're depressed, that's their frequency. That's what they vibrate on. That's why it's very important to always be happy. That's why it says in the Torah that the whole Torah is hinged on us
In happiness.
to perform the Torah b'simcha v'betuv levav, which is what? That's the way all the mitzvot, all the power that we get is from being joy and happiness. That's why it's mitzvah gedola liot b'simcha tamid. It's not just a song; it's a lifestyle. Don't worry, be happy. That's the original anthem to Jews. I don't know how we became kvetcher. Something happened along the way, but it's not us. Now, let's go deeper. When he says zot hapam, what's zot hapam? He says that this is the one that is for me, not like the one that rebelled against me. And as a result, the zot ikra isha. This one we're going to call isha. We'll get into gematria. It says the numerical value of the word isha. Aleph is 1, Shin is 300, that's 301. Hey is 5, that's 306. Woman equals 306. Isha, 306. Now, when you take the gematria of the word ish, man, what's the numerical value? Aleph is 1, Yud is 10, is 11, plus 300, 311. So the numerical value of man is 311. The numerical value of woman is 306. So you can see a slight difference in the numerical value, shows that there's a little bit of a difference in the hierarchy, even in the gematria. The first Chava, how does the Torah call her? Ha'isha. They call her the woman.
315.
No.
311.
No. 311.
311.
How? Hey is 5. Aleph is 1. That's 6. 300, 306. Plus day 311. Oh! Ish and Haisha, 311. She wants it to be the same. No, you're 311, I'm 311. I'm the same height, I'm the same weight, I'm the same size. Why should be more? Why should no, I'm leaving. The first one left. This one was what? Isha and Ish. 306, 311. Perfect. This one, this is how Hashem wanted it. It says, hold on. מפני שאז לא הייתה אישה משועבדת לבעלה כלל, כעת היא עבר מעברה בשר מסוים משועבדת היא לא. He says, what happened? One of the reasons why she didn't want to be beneath her husband or subordinate to her husband is because they were both made the same way. From where? From the ground. They were both made from earth, right? The second one was made from who? From Adam. Here she says the only reason why the woman, the Isha, is in this world right now is because of who? Because Adam took a rib from his body and Hashem created a woman from him. So her whole reason for living is because of who? Him. So she should be grateful, because if it wasn't for him, she wouldn't even be alive. So it makes sense, this whole 306, 311, because of you, I'm alive.
I was first here.
Huh?
I'm the first one over here.
Because and he's the one that brought her into this world, per se. That's why it says, she got rid from his bones, from his flesh. That's why Kohelet, Shlomo HaMelech, in Kohelet says, Tovim HaShnayim min ha'echad. What's Tovim HaShnayim min ha'echad? Adam v'Chava, Shayu Shnayim, they all came from who? From one. They all came from Adam. Adam and Chava all came from Adam eventually. Tovim HaShnayim, שבאו min ha'echad.
What's the translation?
It's good, the two that came from one. Which two came from one? Adam was one, and from his rib came out Chava, which is the second one. Having said that, now that we have that lesson under our belt, let's do let's go back into regular life. In a Jewish home, there's a partnership. The husband is responsible for a few things, and the wife is responsible for a few things. The husband is responsible for the ruchaniut, the spirituality of the home. He's in charge of what happens in the house spiritually. And of course, the 10 things that he's obligated to provide for the woman, that is his sign, that are 3 Doraita and 7 Derabanan, that he's obligated to feed her, to clothe her, to take care of her, all those things. So it basically boils down to that he's in charge of Parnasah and Torah. He's in charge of providing for the home. He's also responsible for the spirituality of the home. The wife, which is the Ruchaniut. The wife is the Gashmiut. She's the one that's responsible for the physical things, like what? Like taking care of the home and being a homemaker, and that's physical. And the children, that's also physical, right? So to crystallize this, I'm going to use an example that my rabbi used. He says the father is the faucet, right? He's the one that is the giver, right? The faucet. You open it up, water comes out. He's the giver. The wife is the vessel, right? Put a big vase under it, and she's able to take all the water. The husband gives, she receives. Then the children are the cups, right? So you have the mashpia, the influencer, the giver, which is the father. You have the wife who has the vessel to receive, and she in turn also has the responsibility to pass it on to the children. Now, if the husband is the faucet, where you open up the water and he's the giver, if I have a cup right now, okay, let's do it like this, here. This is the faucet. If the cup is over here, can it receive anything? No, because it's too high, right? How about if it's sideways? Can it receive anything? No, because it's sideways, right? If it's too high, can it receive? Yes, but it's going to be sloppy, right? It's going to be all over the place. But if it's right here, right on the faucet, this is perfect, right? Meaning what? If the wife is over the husband, can he give her? Can he serve as the influencer? No, she's on top of him. I make more money, I'm more religious than you, I'm smarter than you. It's never going to work. This relationship doesn't work. The relationship of a woman on top of her husband doesn't work. The relationship of a woman competing with her husband. I'm just like you. You make $1 million, I make $1 million. You're 6 feet, I'm 6 feet. You know Parashat Shavua, I know Parashat Shavua. We're all equals. Is this going to work? No. Why? Because the husband is the faucet. He's the one, right? But if the faucet is right here, what happens? The water comes out and receives it in the vessel. This works. This relationship works. Not too high, not too low. Right there, just a small little 306, 311 type of a difference. He's the king, she's the queen. Why is this interesting? Why is this good to know? Because even though that the husband is ruchaniyut and the wife is gashmiyut, they can't be successful unless they're working together. Why? The parnasah is connected to the wife. Why? It says that any success that a husband has in the outside world to make money to bring home depends on the wife. As it says, "Le'olam yeh adam zahir b'kvod ishto." So the person should be very, very careful with honoring his wife. She'en bracha mitzuya b'toch beto shel adam, ela b'shvil ishto. There's no blessing that comes into a person's life unless it comes because of his wife. As it says, Ulavram hetiv avura. That how did Abraham become so rich? Because of Sarai. So we learn from here that a woman is able, that a person is successful at bringing parnasah only if he's honoring his wife. So we see over here that his success of parnasah, which he's responsible for, is only through her. Furthermore, we said that a man is responsible for the spirituality of the home, right? But how does it work? He goes in the morning and he prays. He goes in the morning and he learns. He comes at night and he learns. He comes home, he says, my wife, I just learned how to keep Shabbat better. My wife, I just learned that when you drink a cup of water, it's Shakoni Yabit Baro. My wife, I just learned that when you're a boy, you're supposed to cover your head with the kippah and you're supposed to wear tzitzit. Oh, great. What does she do? She received the information. Now where does she take it? To the children. Abba said, you have to say Shakor when you drink water. Abba said, boys wear kippah and wear tzitzit. Right? So what happens? He goes and he learns, but who implements it in the home? The wife. Why? Because he's working all day long, right? His job is to go bring parnasa, right? And if he's not doing parnasa, he's praying and he's learning. So who teaches the house in reality? The woman. So the success of his job of ruchaniyut also is connected to the wife. And that's why in Igeret Ramban he brings, Al titosh et torat imecha. He says, don't forsake the Torah of your mother. Torah of your mother, the father brings Torah to the home. No. The Torah that your mother teaches you. Yeah, your father brings the Torah home. But who's on top of the kids to say the brachot? Who's on top of the kids that they're going to say modeh when they wake up? Who's on top of the kids for netilat yadayim? Who's on top of the kids that they bless on food, or that they pray, or that they have derech eretz and they use the right language and they look into the right things? Who implements the spirituality in the home? The imam. So even though he's responsible for parnasa, even though he's responsible for spirituality, he can't do it without the wife. It's all connected to the wife. What about her? How can the woman be successful in raising children and dealing with worldly things? How can we do it? How can she be the queen of the house? This is going to be a little bit of a shock, and it might expose some people, but we have to do it. It says, you know how you have an Eshet Chayil in the house? The woman can't be an Eshet Chayil unless her husband makes her an Eshet Chayil. How? Because we said they're all interconnected, right? We just proved how the man can't be successful unless the woman does everything in order to be successful. The parnasah and the ruchaniyut. Okay, so I want an Eshet Chayil. How does the woman become an Eshet Chayil? It's dependent on the husband. Look what it says over here. Eshet Chayil is a woman who has pure and holy thoughts, and she's able to control her positive thinking through the entire daily task and daily life. And in her mind, all she thinks about is family and God. Why? Because the husband is the mashpia and the woman is the mekabel. So when the husband's thoughts are in kedusha, she automatically has the thoughts of kedusha, and automatically she becomes eshet chayim. And it goes to say that it's connected to the thoughts of the husband. And eshet chayim can only be when the person's thoughts are pure. God forbid, should a person's thoughts be not pure, what happens? Also the woman's thoughts are impure. Meaning what? If the guy's on social media, internet, Netflix, wherever it is, and he's looking at nasty things or places that he shouldn't be looking at, know that 10 times more your wife is doing that also. But if you're looking at some things that are good and that are healthy and that are holy, your wife also is doing that 10 times more. Meaning a direct correlation to your wife and to on the good or on the bad, going up or going down, is according to where your eyes and where your mind is at. As it said, Masechet Sotah, Ihu bika'ari v'yitetete bibutzini. Meaning, b'ma sha'ba'al osek hi asuka. Whatever the husband is busy with, the wife is busy with. What's the problem over here? Because people get to this reality that a person, his mind goes off. Let's say he's like watching all these things that are improper. His minds are not, his thoughts are not holy thoughts. He's not in a, let's call it, vibrating on a Jewish frequency. And all of a sudden his wife, mafsikali shamalo, his wife doesn't listen to him anymore. Or mezalzelet bo, she makes light of him. She like brushes him off. ולאט לאט מתנתקת ממנו לחלוטין, and slowly but surely she disconnects from him. I want to tell you, this is a reality. I know a lot of people that are going through this. That the family has no connection. That the husband is disconnected from the wife. And when you ask him why, she said, "Yo, you know why I'm not talking to my husband? You know why we're disconnected? You know why we're fighting?" She'll give you a million reasons. But it wants you to know, these are just excuses. If you want to know why your wife gets distanced from you, because there's a problem. She has no personal kedusha. She's not holy. Or she's not on a holy path. Or she's not looking to grow spiritually. And where did she get that? Where did she get that? From you. You're the one that caused her to that. Because your mind is over there, her mind is over there. And then when both minds are in a different place, they disconnect. Furthermore, why was Sarai Imenu called Eshet Chayim? That שתמיד מחשבתה הייתה דבוקה אך ורק בדברים קדושים טהורים. Why was she an Eshet Chayim? Because she was always thinking about good, positive, and holy things. And she never let the Yetzirah get in to her brain. And never let her get her or her husband to go in the wrong direction. And over here we're going to learn, remember we said that she's 127? We're going to add one more layer. You know what they said over here? He says, you know why it says Ma'aseh v'Sheva? He says, why does it Remember she's like a 20-year-old, like a 7-year-old? Her thinking was like a 7-year-old. She never had dirty thoughts. She never had evil thoughts. She never had these things that were like negative. Even her thoughts were like a 7-year-old. So imagine being a 20-year-old or a 100-year-old, a 127-year-old that thinks as purely as a 7-year-old. That's what she was in Eshet Chayim. Her mind was never in the gutter. Her mind never went to negative things. Her mind was always two things: my husband, my family, and God. My family and God. That's how she came to Eshet Chayim. She didn't pollute her mind with, like binging on shows on how the goyim live. I don't want to say names of shows because I don't know too many names of shows anymore. But there's so many shows that you're watching people and it pollutes the mind. Pollutes the mind. You're not in kedusha. All of a sudden you're distant from your husband. All of a sudden you're disconnected. All of a sudden you're fighting. What happened? The mind is in the wrong place. And because the mind is in the wrong place, you're not able to connect. Now I'm going to, I told you we're going to take a long exit, but we're going to come back to it. Remember what we said, that Avraham tafel Sarah ben-Gvura. We said that Avraham was on a lower level of Sarai Imenu when it came to prophecy. What could she have done? What could she have done? She could tell Avraham, you're Mr. Ruchaniyut, I'm higher than you. I'm higher than you. What did she do? She stayed in her lane. She stayed in her box. She understood that even that I'm better than my husband in Ruchaniyut, but that's not my role in this house. Even that I'm better than my husband in making money, but that's not my role in this house. Even if I'm better than my husband, all these things, but what's my role? I know what's my role. A woman has a role and a husband has a role. And even though she was on a higher level spiritually, she never put it out there. Where's Sarai Imenu? Ba'ohel. Even she was on a higher spiritual level, but she knew her place, she knew her role. And she stayed in her lane to make her marriage work. She didn't say, I'm just like you, Chava number 1, remember? I'm just like you, with the same level. Or she didn't say, I'm better than you. Chas v'shalom. She said, my role, even if I'm holier, Israel is ba'ohel. My job is in the house. Hashem created man and woman, that a woman takes care of the family, of the children, of the household, of all the things of the Gashmiut. You go out there and do Ruchaniyut. But Hashem blessed you with more. Thank you very much, Hashem. But that's not my role. That's an Eshet Chayil. That she was even higher than him spiritually, but she didn't leverage that in any way. She knew her role in the house. Nowadays, it's not so much in Ruchaniyut. Sometimes it's when the woman makes more money than the man. There's a reality nowadays that a woman can bring home more money than the husband. And all of a sudden, she's like, she goes around the house, I'm the breadwinner. It's very bad. A woman, even if she's making 10 times more than her husband, she's the breadwinner. That's his role. If you take away the role, you belittle him. You belittle him, there goes the disconnect. There's the whole thing. When you try to take the man's role in the house, even if it's 100% true that you're making more money, but that's not your role. But that's the reality, even if it's the reality. Your role is that you're the wife. He's the breadwinner, even if he's making a little bit less. And that's a success of a good Jewish home. Sarai Ben was on a higher level spiritually. She didn't put it in his face. In conclusion, maybe I'll give you a minute of b'dichut, a little joke. In Eshet Chayil, we see the word Ba'ala, the husband, mentioned in 3 times. Remember, we said it's according to Aleph Bet, right? So there's, every time it says Ba'ala, look, Batach Ba'alev Ba'ala V'shala lo yachsar. That's in Bet. The next time that we see it is in Nun. Noda b'sharim Ba'ala B'shifto im zikna haaretz. That's a Nun. And then we see it also in Kuf. Kamu vanea v'yasherua Ba'ala v'yalela. That's in Kuf. So we see that they mentioned the husband 3 times in Eshet Chayil, in Bet, Nun, and Kuf, which spells out bank. Right? When they mention the husband, when they need the money, right? Bank. So you like that?
What's wrong?
So what did we learn from the first Eshet Chayil? Let's tie it up in a bow. What did we learn from the first Eshet Chayil? Number 1, it's the number 1 template to the Jewish woman. If you ever want to know what is a successful Jewish woman in the world, the first one that got the woman of valor, Sarai Imenu. What did she do? She had physical beauty that played no part in her life. It was the inner beauty that she was interested in. As we say in Eshet Chayil, Sheker Achen Behevel Hayofi, Yirat Hashem Hiti Talal. Meaning what? The beauty that Hashem gave you, do you have anything to do with it? No. So we don't give you credit for that pretty face, because you had nothing to do with it. But Yirat Hashem, a woman that has a fear of God, Hitita, give her the credit. That one you talk about. Look at this woman. Look at what she does. So we see that even though that she had the physical beauty, we said the 4 most beautiful women to ever live on planet Earth, but we don't talk about her beauty. She didn't pay attention to her beauty. We pay attention to her inner beauty. A woman's inner beauty is the most important thing. We know that Sarai Men was not materialistic. She was all about acts of kindness. As it says, You know what? Maybe I'll quote it since we're. פיה פתחה בחוכמה ותורת חסד על לשונה. If you ever think about Sarah Imenu, when she opened up her mouth, like if you ever imagine, oh, Sarah Imenu, I wonder what type of conversation she had. Did she say, oh, I want to go to the mall and get the nails done? Oh, you want to go like to the store and like see if there's like some clothing on sale? Is that like how Sarah Imenu talks? Pia patcha bechokhma. When she opened up her mouth, you hear the wisdom of a woman. What did she say? Torat chesed al leshona. What was the thing she used to say? There's a woman that just gave birth. Let's go cook for her. I heard there's a town over there that has a lot of people that are off the deck. Let's go convert them. Let's go make them good. Oh, do you know there's a person who's sick? Let's do bikur cholim. Pia patcha bechokhma. When she opened up her mouth, it was wisdom. Torat chesed al leshona. Everything she wanted to do is just chesed, 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 chesed. She was not materialistic. She was all about acts of kindness. She was also always grateful for everything in her life. We said when something was good, okay, Baruch Hashem was good. Teaching is good and for the best, always the best and the best thing for her. And also as a mother, we see that Sarah Imenu, the number one thing in her mind was what? Chinuch Yeladim. All she wanted to do is to make sure that her child gets the best education and he does not have friends that are not good for him. Kick Ishmael out. Also, we saw that she had self-sacrifice. She had total dedication to her husband. She herself had total dedication because her whole focus was Hashem and her family. God, her husband, and her son. So much that when it came to Akedat Yitzchak, she died from happiness. That she got to the point that she has a husband that's willing to sacrifice his own son for Kiddush Hashem, and a son that's willing to die for Kiddush Hashem. She said, my job here is done. I'm good. I graduated. So much that Avraham Avinu said, only a little bit I need to. Believe me, not only she a tzaddik, but she left a tzaddik behind. She's good. Not only that, she was tznuah, she was modest, she was the most beautiful woman in the world. At that time, comes the malachim and say, "Eifo Sarah ishtecha? Sarah ba'ohel." She never flaunted her beauty. She was modest. She wasn't like somebody that goes out and mingles with people. Her whole life was family and God. It says, Eshet Chayil Mimsa, who's going to find such a woman? Tonight, we had just a little bit of a sampling of this role model of Sarah Imenu. But also, we got a glimpse of what a Jewish home is like. Everybody has a role, and everybody has to stay in their lane. A man cannot be a woman, and a woman cannot be a man. Everybody, you can even look at the body of a person. You can see the physical structure of a man is that he's a giver. He gives the seed. And the woman is what? She's a receiver. She receives the seed. And what does she do with it? She makes. You come back in 9 months, all of a sudden, a small drop becomes a 10-pound baby. And that just tells you what the essence of people are. The essence of a man and the essence of a woman. And if everybody plays their role, if everybody stays in their lane, if everybody's respectful of one another, if everybody thinks about just family and God, he's going to be a hero and she's going to be an Eshet Chayil and everything's going to be okay. But if you corrupt the mind, if the machshavot are negative, or if you're not following the Jewish formula, if you're not living a Jewish life, if you're not living your true Jewish identity in this world, and you just, your religion is Kiddush on Friday night by Chabad, or if your religion is that you just put a kippah on right before the blowing of the shofar on Yom Kippur, you're missing the boat, you're missing the whole journey. You got a ticket to ride on this beautiful planet, and you're at the gift shop. You're not even going for the rides. You're not even you don't even know what's going on. So if you're not living a Jewish life with your Jewish soul and living a purposeful life where you're in the moment and you understand everything that's going on, you're missing the point. And nowadays, why is this a good lesson to learn? Because we're in the danger zone. You open up your phone, and there's how much Judaism is on that phone. I know you really have to dig. You really have to go there and stay there. But everything else is everything else. So that's what the Imre Noam was talking about. Your machshavot go to different places. Your wife's machshavot is going to go there as well. Why are we disconnected? Why are there fights? Why are they not getting along? Our mind is not in the right place. I want shlom bayit. Good, turn off the phone. I want to have parnasa. Good, take your wife on a date. Connect to your wife. Connect to your family. We've always been about family and God, family and God. The more you're about family and God, the more you're going to be successful, the more you're going to have an Eshet Chayil Eliyahu. Hashem Baruch Atem, Sameach Atem, will be married to a family life like Avraham and Sarah.